What Zillow's saying is, in order to be successful, you have to be on our website.
Yeah.
And that's the fallacy.
So today we're going to do a little bit of a different podcast. Obviously, normally we have, builders here and talking about, but, this market has had a lot of sellers. There's also been a lot of talk nationwide, I think, about all different marketing strategies and how should sellers be selling their home. And there's great information. I think that there's, I'll use the word disinformation or miscommunication of what is kind of going on out there. And I just wanted to kind of try to bring kind of to the head the most accurate data to viewers, from coast to coast that watch this. We have two really great, smart guys. We got Tanner and John here. Take a second, introduce yourself, kind of what your role is, and
Yeah. So I'm Tanner Milson. I'm the sales manager for Compass here locally in the Delaware beaches. Previously spent time in Texas, managing brokerages, producing myself. So been around the block.
Yeah.
Hey, Cory, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming.
My name's John Bilek. So I'm the national head of sales management here at Compass. We're the largest real estate brokerage in the country now. Celebrating 25 years in the industry this past month, which is pretty crazy.
That's huge.
Yeah, I know. How do you believe that?
Yeah.
It looks so young.
Yeah.
And so I wear a couple of hats. I'm also regional vice president. But long story short, I've been with Compass 7 years. I helped launch our Philadelphia market and the Delaware market, which is exciting. I live here in Delaware, and I just love this industry. I'm actually very excited about a lot of the changes because it's shining a light on how we are innovating the industry, which historically was a little antiquated. And that's what I enjoy so much about Compass and the businesses. It's an opportunity to innovate for the future.
Well, it's really funny because I was with a different brokerage, obviously, as most agents are. And when I was, the team came from Compass and said, hey, what are you thinking about? Would you consider coming over to Compass? And they're talking about, you always hear about this Compass technology. I was like, oh yeah, I have a CRM already and I do email marketing and everything. And then when I met, I was like, yeah, I think this makes sense, but I'm still going to use all of my platforms. And they're like, okay, go for it. And it was a matter of like 2 weeks. I'm like, what am I doing? This is, I feel like I'm, walking through mud with what I have going on when I could like put on my running shoes and be like racing around the track. And so it really is. I really thought this whole, technology thing was just like a buzzword that Compass used, and it is. It's beneficial to me for sure. Yeah. But the biggest thing, and this is part of, when I'm talking to clients, is the benefit that it brings to my clients that I didn't have before, which is awesome.
Yeah. I joined Compass because I said to myself, who's thinking about the next 30 years in this industry?
Yeah.
And this tech platform that you mentioned, we spent $1.5 billion. We had
with a B.
With a B. We had the luxury of raising a lot of capital and building this platform. We continue to spend $100 million a year enhancing and improving. And it was designed based on agent feedback to make your life easier, whether it be to grow your business or to give you time back in your business. And now it's expanding to help consumers through Compass One and some of our other digital insights to help them make better decisions and increase the value of their home. So to see that come to light and see folks like you join us and then take advantage of it is really exciting.
Oh, it's been great. And like I said, selfishly, it's been great for me, but more so it's what I can talk to about, to my clients about that we now bring to the table. And that's maybe a good segue to kind of get into like, what is the main purpose of the three of us knuckleheads getting together here and putting on headphones and chatting. And it's kind of what has been going on in the industry recently. There's been talk from every angle, on every platform, on every whatever, talking about, Zillow and homes and homes.com and brokerages and exclusive listings and all this. And I think there's just been so much information that's just spinning around, some maybe agents on other podcasts or on social media, that maybe part of it is jealousy because they don't have the same platform that they can utilize. And I think other is agents making comments because they themselves truly don't understand what Compass is doing. And what I'm talking about is Compass's 3-phase marketing that was launched, kind of end of last year, really, kind of big time, beginning of this year. And it's, to your point, what you said earlier, 3-phase marketing, which is first, private exclusive, second, 24 hours coming soon on Compass platform, and then going active on the MLS, which, as you were saying, the majority of homes are sold once they go active on the MLS. But, Tanner and I did a podcast a few months ago, and I kind of, the first phase 1 and 2, I played lacrosse, growing up. And this is kind of my analogy of how I explain it to my clients. When January, February comes up, I don't put my shoulder pads and helmet on and go hit the field in a game. We got to practice and warm up and re-hone our skills and everything. I look at the phase 1 and 2 as practicing, warming up, getting ready for game day. And that's what phase step 3 is. And I think a lot of agents that are speaking to it don't understand the goal.
I think if nothing else today, if we can overcome some of the fact versus fiction, this will be a successful morning, because there's a lot of spin going on. And
Sure.
And honestly, there's a lot of headlines, and you got to look past the headlines to really understand what we're doing. So I'll be candid. When I came to Compass 7 years ago, that was when some brokerages started using this coming soon method for starting a listing. I'd start to see signs pop up in the yard. And I actually said to myself, they're just trying to pick up the buyer. That's all they're doing. But what was interesting, and we were really forward thinking about doing it a very innovative way. What we've learned is by starting to market the home the day we list the property. A lot of brokers, they wait till it goes to the MLS to start the market. We've started the day to start building anticipation. Think about a movie trailer, right? Movies don't just show up on
that's
on
a great way.
Netflix,
Yeah, that's a great way.
or if you go to the theater anymore. There's months and months and months of pre-marketing. There's cast interviews. There's billboards, right? Why are they doing that? Because they want to sell out the first weekend.
Sure.
So we take that same approach to our homeowners, and you may not even be ready to show it yet.
Yeah.
But by we're casting the net earlier and building that anticipation. What we've learned, here's the cool thing. When you use pre-marketing, whether it be private exclusive and coming soon, some variety or both, we've tracked all of our sales last year. Our listings that use that versus didn't sold 2.9% higher than the homes that go directly to the MLS.
Wow.
So when you think about now, put my realtor hat on, we've got a fiduciary responsibility to our sellers. So when I know of something that can increase the value of our home, I'm actually required to show it to you. So that's the first fact versus fiction. To your point, Cory, the vast majority of our listings sell in the open market. Vast majority. The few that sell during phase 1 or phase 2, of those 80% sell at list price or higher. So the argument is, you start to build this anticipation. Unless you're getting that outsized result, we're going to go to the third phase. It's 3-phase marketing for a reason. So we also have clients who say, I want privacy, or it could be somebody looking for a job in another market, and they can't let everybody know, or they might have a home situation with special needs children where they don't want a lot of traffic. So we're giving an option. And what is giving us passion is not just the outcome, but the fact that homeowners should have choice. Typically, it's your largest asset. You should be able to decide how to market that home. That's what's driving our CEO, Robert Refton's passion, and our passion to ensure that homeowners have that.
Yeah, I think that's, the word choice, maybe should be like put in the corner of this video to highlight and remind people that really kind of is what it is. Because I think that goes a little bit to this misinformation, is that what is being put out there. And with social media nowadays, look, if you're an agent or a real estate coach or whatever, and you have a social platform and, you do a little selfie on your phone, it goes out to millions of people like that. And now all of a sudden these people are like, oh my goodness, I had no idea. Yeah. Compass is selling homes to keep it in-house and make more money. And it's like, that is not at all the reason for it. Again, to your point, what you said earlier, it's 3-phase marketing. To keep it in-house is only phase 1 and 2. Why is there a third phase? And that's important.
And not only that, we co-broke with everybody.
All the time.
We want all of our friends. There's so many great brokerages out there, so many great people in our industry. We're an industry built on collaboration and cooperation. Yep. We encourage you, come to our offices, reach out to a Compass agent. We are sharing all of our private exclusives. We want you to bring your buyers.
Sure.
Because that's a benefit for our sellers. I frankly don't care who sells the house, who has the buy side.
Do you know statistically, and I don't mean to pop this on you, but of the listings that sell through Compass, what percentage are in-house and what percentage are co-broked?
I don't know the answer, but that should tell you something, because we don't track it.
Because it doesn't happen.
We don't even track it.
Yeah.
The headline with everybody else is their MO is that they're just trying to double end a deal. We don't even know. I don't even know. I manage a region of 2,000 agents, and I help oversee 350 sales leaders in the country. I have no idea what that stat is because we don't track it.
Yep.
One of the things too, as far as like fact versus fiction, we've had a lot of people locally think about, well, does this mean, I have to delay my MLS date, right? Does this mean I have to go through this process, do I have to wait 60 days, 90 days? And, the goal with three-phase marketing is just making use of those dead days. Traditionally, I mean, going back to choice, you meet with an agent, the agent says, hey, sign these documents, we're going to get your photos back. And, whenever you're ready, we'll put on the MLS. And, that timeline, whether it's 15 days, 30 days, is
just
lost,
sitting there,
right? There's no marketing happening.
Well, not only is it sitting there, competing properties are going under contract.
That's right.
So by getting it out, even like the movie trailer, people are going to wait. Oh, I want to see that new picture. I'm going to wait to maybe see something else. Same thing with homes. So it's almost like a little insurance policy.
That's right.
During that period you're talking about, Tanner.
Yeah, and that is kind of a pigeonholed way of selling a property. It is our only choice is to wait till the MLS. We're going to limit it to that kind of exposure. And those first two phases with private exclusive notifies all the local Compass agents and regional Compass agents that there's a property here for sale. Here's the price. Maybe here's an exterior photo and some specific details from that Compass agent. And we've, agents in DC, agents in Philly, agents in New York are seeing that listing and getting tipped off on it while potentially their clients are shopping. They may hold off on an offer. And then as we move to that coming soon phase, now we're getting public exposure without days on market racking up. So we're preventing one of the biggest negative insights that can hold back property value, harm property value before we hit that MLS with an accurate price, with a little momentum. Ideally, maybe an offer in hand from, another brokerage that we can say, hey guys, if you want this property, you're going to have to escalate it. When the traditional model has been, well, let's just wait till the MLS and then we're going to start taking price drops every 15 days.
And to that point and kind of the process through it, and I commend some of the other smaller brokerages that are like saying, hey, I think we may do some like office private exclusives, however they want to name it themselves. That's great. But when you have, and this is something I talk about with clients, the corporate-based style business model versus franchise. So franchise, you can go to, whatever big box brokerage, go to each franchise, and they're using this CRM, and this one's using this CRM, and this one's using that CRM. They don't communicate with one another. Versus corporate, when there's an agent that comes on to Compass in Idaho, we're on the same platform. If he happens to have someone who's looking to buy a home here in Lewis, Delaware, I can hit the reverse prospecting and see that Edward has someone, and I can say, hey, just so you know, I have a private exclusive. I don't know if you saw it or not, that meets your client's criteria. Do you want me to send you a video or something? Is there something that could be helpful? You can't do that when you're in the franchise platform when they're not sharing the platform.
You're touching on so many good points.
I know.
How long is this podcast?
Yeah, we have so many rabbit holes that we can go down.
Be here for 3 hours. But Tanner brings up a couple good points. Days on market and price drops are the killer of value for homeowners.
Yep.
So this protects that, right? Because the moment you launch the MLS, it just starts accruing. So you get this opportunity to do price discovery. I think every seller, pricing a home isn't easy necessarily. It's equal parts art and science.
Sure.
And a lot of our homeowners want to test an aspirational price. Well, the good news is you can test that aspirational price, and once we go to the MLS, which we will through three-phase, that history lives nowhere.
Yep.
Right? So a lot of times sellers say, I'd kind of like to test it. Great, we can do that for you. Get the feedback. And then Cory, you mentioned the technology with the reverse prospecting. We also have something called the network tool in our platform that tells us which other agents at other brokerages are selling in this price point. We send it to them as well because the change with Clear Cooperation in March allows us to now share it one-on-one.
Because we're not trying to keep it in-house. We're just trying to sell the property for our client.
So if we were trying to sell the house, why would we spend money on our technology to tell us who to send it to?
Yeah.
So it's just another good point. But back to price discovery, days on market, I think those probably resonate the most with our homeowners to say, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple, we've got some really interesting stories here, locally, Rehoboth Beach Yacht and Country Club. The seller had a really high aspirational price, was dead set on like a 1.4, 1.3. We got 10, 15 Compass agents, 5 or 6 agents from other brokerages, collected that feedback and got them priced accurately, just under $1 million. There was some deferred maintenance, that sort of stuff. That property, instead of sitting on the market for 180 days, waiting to accept an offer, they got competitive offers. They went under contract within, I think it was 21 days after being on the MLS. When when you think about if that property would have just went straight to the MLS at that aspirational price, the adverse outcome for that seller is bad. It's really bad. I mean, that's 180 days, 360 days on the market.
And let's be honest, that's stressful. I think anybody who's sold a home knows it's stressful. And when we ask a seller, what's most important to you? Clearly it's price, but it's usually also time and hassle. And I mentioned the 2.9% price advantage. Our properties that use pre-marketing sell 20% fewer days on market and 30% fewer price drops.
Right.
So it really gets to what is most
And it's that mental and emotional burden on the shoulders. Like once we get it sold or it's under contract, all of a sudden you go, all right, now I can focus on wherever you're moving to or whatever that next step is, which is our job again, to try to help manage all of that. I think that another big part of what we've been hearing also is, the big Z word and kind of how they have decided to counter. We know that not just in real estate, but data is the new oil, and they obviously have figured that out and have said, hey, there's a huge market with tons of data, multifaceted, real estate and personal and all types of stuff. I think something that everyone forgets, and we spoke about it earlier, Zillow does not sell homes.
Right.
Zillow sells leads, and I think that they use the home as a vehicle to sell leads to generate money, and good for them. That's
right.
They figure out a business model that's great, and they're continually changing their platform to be an advocate for the lead source, selfishly for themselves, which they should. It's their money, that they're building, but they're changing their model or adding features to their model to help generate more interest, to sell a lead to an agent, not necessarily sell the home. It's not always, maybe more than always, in the best interest of the seller.
Right. Well, let's go back to the fact versus fiction, because I think, Cory, this is an area where a lot of folks are confused. And unfortunately, I think some realtors are confused, and then the consumers are getting confused. Sure. So Zillow's new policy says, listen, if you're going to publicly market a private exclusive, you need to get it on the MLS within 24 hours. So the fact here is we can still offer our three-phase strategy to every single one of our sellers, business as usual, and it does not impact your ability to go to Zillow. Okay, now that's the first thing. Like, this is not about not being allowed to do a private exclusive. We can still have your home listed as a private exclusive, all those benefits we've talked about, and not have that risk. But what I think, we're going to use the word choice again, I think sellers have to understand what it means to be on one of these third-party websites, like a Zillow. Yep. What does that bring to the table for you? 20 years ago when I got the business, it was simply just you saw the property, you saw the photos, and there was a button that said the listing agent's name and number, right? Okay, great. This is a way to get information out. Obviously, we got to move forward the internet. Well, it is changed to a point where when your listing's on Zillow or some of these other third-party websites, it has a value on the home that could very well be different than the home price you're looking to obtain. It tracks days on market. It's giving some negative insights like wind score, heat score, walkability. I pulled up one the other day. I was in Philadelphia. There was a heat score that was like scared. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't know. And now what I'm starting to see is they're actually telling buyers what to offer on the house. They're suggesting what either a strong or competitive offer price is. So I just say it's back to choice. Zillow and Compass are going to coexist happily.
Sure.
But I think every homeowner should just understand what it means to be on this website and does that bring you value or does it take away value?
Well, and there are other platforms that are third party, realtor.com, homes.com, that also have a similar platform, a similar style, business model, that have different core, I don't want to say core value, but a way that how they feel, maybe they're more on the line of choice as well.
Listen, Zillow's done a fantastic job creating this illusion that you need them to be part of the home selling process. But to your point, Cory, Realtor.com has 125 million views a month. Homes.com, close to 100 million views a month. We have millions of views a month on Compass.com. There were only 4.2 million homes sold last year in the United States. So the vast, vast, vast majority of these eyes are simply just views. And I think
that's crazy. I don't think anyone would think that there was that percentage disparity between actual homes sold and views.
Right.
So, I mean, we're talking...
you're talking
it's like crazy.
It's kind of, those portals are kind of like their Instagram, their Facebook, their
It's fun,
Pinterest,
yeah.
right? Like people use it for different things.
Absolutely.
And a serious consumer typically is maybe using that as their entryway into the relationship with an agent. Maybe they're using it while they're out and about, or while they're cooking dinner, that sort of thing. But all in all, most buyers are leaving that portal and working with an agent and going through a local.
Not just 90%, and it's the highest in history. NAR study, National Association of Realtors, put it out. 90% of buyers use an agent to buy their home, and they are searching the MLS, and they are searching the Compass website as well. So I think it's back to choice. Take a look and then make the decision. But this is one website out of literally thousands and thousands of websites that listings are syndicated to.
Well, I was going to say, and it's funny, I was just going to say the word syndication, which a lot of buyers aren't aware of. Even agents that aren't, they're with other brokerages. If they have their own personal website they built with WordPress, or they're using a realtor software, there's IDX integration, which means that their website can talk and communicate with the MLS, and any listings will forward into that. There's also lots of sales CRMs that have integration with the MLS. So they're not syndicating with Zillow, they're syndicating with the MLS. And the Zillow is getting the data the same way that all these other little realtors' websites are getting the same exact data.
Absolutely.
So it's, and they're getting that information probably faster and with a more boutique style delivery from an agent, not from, the monster, big real estate, Zillow sending out just their email that says, here's a listing that meets your criteria.
Yeah.
It's a completely different experience. Everyone has the way of how they think that they want to get things. But, I think, in my opinion, real estate is going to be personal-based industry forever. I just don't think, with this.
You bring up a good point. So, when you sit with a homeowner, most homeowners feel that their home is special.
Yeah.
And it is special to that.
Their life there.
Some of these changes in our industry create this thought that every home should be treated the same, meaning they should all have the same marketing plan. Mm-hmm. There have been other brokerages who have aligned with Zillow's and Redfin's philosophy. And I would just point out that some of those brokerages have a very low average sales price. So one of them has an average sales price of $400,000. At Compass, our average sales price nationally is $1.2 million.
Wow.
I think most of you'd agree it's probably a different marketing plan.
Sure.
For a $400K versus a $1.2 million home. And that's why I started by saying what the good news is, it's shining a light on different marketing strategies, so we can bring a more robust marketing strategy to a more complicated, typically a more higher end property that needs extra attention. And also those clientele are looking for a more unique strategy to roll their property out.
Sure.
So I think that's the other thing that's not being talked about, right? Here we are, we've developed something that our average client is saying, that sounds great. In the first quarter, almost 50% of our listings, our sellers said, yeah, I want to do that Compass 3-phase. If they weren't saying that, we wouldn't be doing it. But we've clearly delivered something that the seller is saying, I want.
Yeah.
I think me as a consumer, sellers, having that choice to be able to say, okay, here's the path that I want to go, but then having, a really well-informed agent that comes in with a commanding strategy. Okay, here's our options. Here's a couple different plays we can run. We've had sellers in our market say, well, while we're doing these repairs, while we're waiting on photos to come back, before we hit MLS, can we get a sign up there? We get a lot of traffic in front of our house. There's a lot of other properties selling, and I feel like having a sign would be, helpful. And the agent's like, okay, great, let's craft it like this. We can do that within our local regulations. And they've generated pre-MLS offers on that are significantly higher than their expectations and saved them money on doing some of the work. And that seller had the control. The agent was able to bring a strategy to give them the right pathway forward, and it leveraged that pre-market kind of fear of missing out type of thing.
Well, but let's take it to any other industry, right? If you don't mind me asking, Cory, what kind of car do you drive?
BMW.
Okay, so do I actually.
Hey, nice.
So BMW, for example, they don't just all of a sudden launch a new model that shows up at the dealer on a Friday, right?
Yeah.
That would be crazy.
Think about when they launched their whole I-Series. It was a big build-up.
Why would somebody pay a premium for something that just showed up, right? No, there's months and months of. They might do like a back 3/4 panel teaser photo that they launch on a couple websites. They might send out a mailing to their current owners to try to get some buzz and some talk and maybe get some feedback.
Yeah.
Because they haven't launched pricing yet, right? They want to see what people are thinking about this new product that's coming to market soon. And then they build up. Maybe they then launch it at, their golf tournament or at like the Pebble Beach Concours, right? Again, building. So when it does finally reach, they've got a list of orders this long. Yeah. People willing to say, I want one of those. I'm willing to pay a premium for it before anybody else gets the chance. Pre-marketing is used in every... Why? I don't know, for all the ladies who are listening. Chanel bags are not on Amazon.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because it's
exclusivity,
right? If you use this same argument, you say, well, you should be on the biggest marketplace. Well, then there should be a Chanel bag on Amazon. You're not going to see it. Why? Yeah. Because it takes away that exclusivity.
Yeah. I was just thinking, when's the last time you saw a commercial on TV for Ferrari?
Doesn't happen.
And how many commercials have you seen for Chevy? Not that either product is right for the right person, but there's just different marketing strategies. So it's it's okay.
Right. There's this misnomer. It's like more is better. Not always. Not always. For most Ferraris are sold pre-market to their existing clientele at a premium.
And you think about, if in your BMW example, those people that are getting on the wait list, they've got that anticipation of what's to come. You know what they're not doing? They're not going and buying a Mercedes. They're not going and buying the new Tesla.
They're waiting.
They're waiting for the thing that they want. And that's similar to these houses. Like, if you're out looking and you're missing out on a property, you're just not finding the right one, but you get tipped off that there's something coming. I got this private exclusive hit, or I got my agent, even at another brokerage, got an email saying, hey, FYI, we're going to have a private brokers open next week. They're going to hold off.
Yeah. Now, to your point earlier, Tanner, you mentioned about, different clients want different things. Right. There's total adaptability here.
Sure.
We can do 3-phase inside of 4 or 5 days too.
Yeah.
So we have clients who say, no, I've been transferred. I need this on the market. I need to cash out. Yep. Great. We can do the exact same thing in a truncated period.
Sure.
Or just not at all. Again, it's homeowner choice. Yeah.
But the one thing, as I'm a car guy, so we're talking about cars. I'm getting all like, ooh, But when you go to look and you're looking at a used car, because our analogy is utilizing brand new cars.
Yeah.
So let's kind of transfer that to buying a used car. So I want to sell my car. I can go online. I can type in my VIN number. It'll pull up all of the features and options of my car and tell me, I say how many miles, what the condition is, and it'll tell me roughly what it's worth. Now, there are similar algorithms online that I can do with my house. The difference is, it's like saying my car has 4 wheels, 4 seats, and a steering wheel, not what tech packages, what's this, what's that. So these formulas online mimic a little bit kind of the algorithm that you're using to price out a car, except it's missing like 80% of the quality of the home and what differentiates your house. It's using bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, location. What about everything else? What if my house is destroyed? What if my carpets are completely stained and my hardwood floors are scratched? Or what if it's like some crazy Brazilian, flooring or whatever? Yeah. It's missing all of that data. So these like big websites that have these algorithms that give you like, this is what your home is worth, which is what they're basing, what people should be giving offers now, is missing the core details and value of the home. Yeah. Again, it doesn't happen in the automotive industry. It's including, that VIN number includes all the features of your home. Do you have power seats? Do you have power windows? Do you have power locks? It messes all that.
Yeah. And unlike the vehicle purchase, your home is typically your largest asset.
Sure.
A lot of our clients, especially if they're more seasoned, it's a lot of their net worth is tied up in this property, and it's really an important decision. And I think, again, it gets back to, how do you want to control the information when you're selling your largest asset?
Well, and you said earlier, and I'm going to use it all the time now, everyone raise your hand, who wants to sell your house, but the big box website says that your house is worth. Everyone's going to say no. Like, are you kidding me? Right. It's like, for one of my questions is, how do we fix that number to get it what the house is actually worth? So it's not a benefit to the seller. Yeah. I don't know. That's my opinion.
And again, back to price discovery. So here we're sitting in Delaware here, where the good news is we've got a little bit of a balanced market here at the Delaware Beaches, and we've got a lot of new construction to purchase. In a good bit of the Northeast, in the suburbs, we're still undersupplied. Yeah. In the Philadelphia western suburbs, we're 1 to 2 months supply. Where pricing is very hard. There's literally, you can be in a community, there's nothing on the market.
Right.
So again, the ability to test price in a shortage. Now, go to the other extreme, parts of the country like Florida have a lot of inventory.
Yeah.
And for the same reason, before you go be the 10th condo in your building on the market, accumulating days on market, which is a killer value, maybe it's good to start with a different option. Or at different times of the year, in August in Florida, there's not a lot of home sales.
Sure.
You may not want to be on the open market and yet be parked somewhere where you're still available to consumers.
And maybe there just is that person that's out there looking for what it is that you have. It only takes one buyer.
That's right.
It only takes one. And if you're waiting until what's the opportune time, that person bought something else. So at least you have 0% chance of getting it if you do nothing. That's kind of my take. So like, even if you're, maybe you're not getting all eyes by being on the MLS, but you increase your chances of getting demand. But my biggest thing is getting data.
That's right.
We're going to the market warmed up, ahead of time. But this was, something that I wanted to kind of point out real quick, because we were talking about it earlier, is this, feature or whatever we want to call it, that I don't know how
Featured, probably is a good word.
when was it launched? Just recently?
Very recently, from what I can tell.
So as we're scrolling through, and I didn't bring you on because we want to pick on Zillow, but I think that with Zillow being, the platform, it's the household name. Everyone knows, Zillow. Well, I'm going to buy a house. People at some point probably have gone to Zillow and typed something in.
I'm not Compass. We're not anti-Zillow.
No,
we're not anti any of their website. But I think homeowners should see what it looks like to be on our website and on their website.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. If you're going to sell your house, this is how your property is going to be presented to buyers. That's right. Which is, again, their platform is to present it to buyers and then have them click over here something to engage with an agent that is paying to get leads so that they can hopefully, get a buyer.
Well, most consumers think if you click that contact agent, you're getting the listing agent.
Correct.
They don't realize
it doesn't say contact the agent.
No.
It says contact agent. So we go down here. Number one, it shows us views, but it shows us days on market.
It's great. It's a good data point,
explain to me, as a seller, how that ever is an advantage to the seller. As a buyer, should it matter, other than trying to get a better price? Should it matter whether it's all been 5,000 days or one?
Other product that shows days on market.
Correct. I've been selling this book.
When you go to look at a BMW, does it have it like on the windshield?
Yeah.
How many days have been on the lot? Absolutely not. That'd be such a killer of value. Right?
Yeah.
If you go retail shopping, you go to Nordstrom and you see like a beautiful sweater. Does it tell how long it's been on the shelf?
So who does this benefit?
Nobody.
Does it benefit the seller?
No. These insights are developed to give the buyer the edge.
Right.
Our plan is designed to give the seller the edge.
Yep. Or at least make it as close to even.
Yeah. Even playing field.
If you don't have days on market, it's like I'm a buyer. I like that home. Shouldn't matter if it's been on the market for 1 day or 5,000. I like that home. I see the price. It's within my price point. Let me go look at it.
Can I talk about this idea of like equal? Sorry, now I'm gonna.
Yeah.
I'm going to offend some people out there. When a homeowner hires us to market their home, we have what's called a fiduciary duty to them. Right? We have a contract with the seller to do everything in our power. Part of that duty is not to make sure that every buyer on the planet sees this property.
Sure.
There's this red herring that this is about fair housing. We are all for fair housing, but fair housing doesn't trump a marketing strategy that helps our seller generate the higher price, which is why we're hired.
Yep. Yeah. No. Yeah. We are. They hire us to sell their home. Yeah. Not make friends. How many buyers and sellers end up inviting the seller to their kid's wedding, 3 years later? It's a transactional thing. You make it amicable. It's a good transaction. Everyone moves on and goes about their life. But days on market isn't beneficial to the listing.
The only product I can think of that shows days on market is produce. When you go into the grocery store and you see the old avocado or the old banana, I know it's silly, but
that's what that is.
Right.
I had never thought of that.
Who's buying that meat?
Right? And the butcher starts discounting that stuff, right? It makes your property look like damaged goods. Right?
Somebody told me recently, they're like, "Oh, my dad loves to get the day old sushi." I'm like, "What? Are you kidding me?
On purpose?
It's like half off
for a reason." Yeah, exactly.
And that's like, again, Zillow, these are all helpful insights, but you should be able to opt into them or opt out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You should have the choice.
It's not beneficial. And this is one of my listings, which, by the way, anyone watching, this is a really great house in Malden.
Please buy it.
Yeah.
Love it.
You should come check it out. But yeah, so days on market, again, how does that benefit the Zestimate? Again, we have already kind of pointed out that elephant in the room. Who wants to sell their house for a Zestimate? And how are they gathering that data? Like I was saying earlier, if a square foot is an old beat up piece of wood versus a 24 karat piece of gold, like it's two completely different values. So how is this Zestimate walking the home and seeing how did this buyer outfit their home? When we build a house, we can build a house. It starts with the base price. Say the base price is $600,000. You can put $5,000 in options. You can put $500,000 in options.
Well, and one of the options is
Two
the
completely different things.
lot premium.
Sure.
This doesn't show at all
Nope.
positioning in the community. Location, right? The golden rule of real estate still holds
Is it
true.
a pond lot? Is it a wood
And that's
lot?
the
What is it?
biggest
Yep.
indicator of value.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So we go through, and then we have the typical data. But here's the one that, oh my goodness. So this is now telling buyers who are coming here what they should be offering. So again, as a seller, do I want my home on the platform to where it's now telling them a strong offer? This strong offer is still under the value of where this home should be at. I think that we actually priced our home on the more conservative side. I think we probably could be a little bit more aggressive with it. So this is even more. And then they notice, well, if you want to be competitive, moderate, and weak, I mean, we're down to 603. Are you kidding me? The house is just over a year old. The guy doesn't even live there. It's like this home's. This is ridiculous. So,
and if you look, even the 12 days on market is a really interesting factor, because the subtext there is median days, to go pending is 21 days. That subset of data here in Sussex County is so wide ranging between land lease lots to new build properties and everything in between. So I guarantee you hit 23, 24 days, and that weak offer is going to start. They're going to start calling that a little stronger.
sure.
Right.
Well, and unfortunately, I think it sets the buyers up for a challenging situation, because they say, okay, Cory, click on the competitive offer button, and a buyer says, well, okay, they say to their agent, well, let's offer the 634. Well, they know nothing about the motivation of the seller. The seller might have said, listen, I don't have to sell. I'm only going to sell if I get my price, which we have a lot of clients, and that's fair. And that might take more than 21 days.
Yeah.
Right. But it's setting the buyer up for not a great experience either. So I'm not really sure who this helps.
You're going to get tension, creates tension with that client from your expectations.
And then they're going to have to battle with their buyer's agent, who might say, well, actually.
Well, I was just gonna say that as a buyer's agent, I'm like, that house is not a 635 house. I've had a lot of buyers in this community, and if we go in with this offer, hey, it's 20 minutes to put an offer together. I'll do what you want as my client. My job is to represent you, but that home, setting expectations, probably not going to get an accepted offer. But so now, it's just creating noise. But what is the real strategy here? It's the strategy is to get a buyer who is not represented, because the client is not getting syndication from the agent's website or from the agent's CRM or whatever. They're just out there browsing around of the, 192 million, whatever it is, views that don't have an agent yet, that say, get advice from an agent. And they get to sell
Think of it this way. As professional marketers, we have a lot of tools in our tool bag that we can use, leverage to pull to market a property. Zillow is one of them. It's no different than, do we do an open house in this property? That's another marketing outlet, right? Some homeowners want to have open houses.
Yep.
Great. Sometimes it makes a lot of sense. Sometimes we don't.
Some others say, I don't want people in there.
On a very high-priced exclusive home, we may, for the right reasons, not advise to do a open. So again, it's back to choice. We've got properties who would probably thrive because maybe they're first-time home buyer priced, or in pockets of the market where there's a lot of Zillow eyes. Great. We're going to say that's a good marketing tool to use.
Yep.
But to just arbitrarily say it should be used on every single listing, and if you don't, you're banned for life,
It's crazy.
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, we want to sell this pen. I can sell this pen however I want to sell this pen. Whatever channels necessary, whatever channels I want to sell that pen. And I think that people have this misconception that there's only one way to sell a home, and if you don't, you're in trouble, and your houses won't get on there, and there's no way, and there's these rules kind of set around it, which
creates fear.
Yeah.
And that's when you think about the sentiment around realtors in general forever has been, just open doors and collect checks.
Yeah.
Or you just put on the MLS and that's all you do. So what am I paying you for? And I think now in the modern way of selling homes, you have to be a marketing expert. You've got to come in with a strategy and give your clients a couple of choices. and go above and beyond, the trope that all we're doing is opening doors, collecting checks. That's not what
and the
our
shame of it, Tanner, you bring up a good point, because unfortunately most homeowners, they're not paying attention, and they don't have to, because the average homeowner sells every 13 years.
Sure.
That's the national average. So they don't start paying attention until they need to, right? And then there's all this noise and confusion. And I think you bring up a good point, because that's part of our job too, is help cut through the noise and help them understand what their choices are so they can make a decision.
Yeah. So think about this. What were they experiencing 13 years ago? You know what I mean? I mean, my goodness, how much things have changed. Yeah. So now they're like, oh, well, my agent before, and it's like, when was before? 13 years ago. Did he wind up his car like before? Things have changed. I mean, our industry is
We have clients who've been
moving.
with us 30 and 40 years.
Yeah,
Right?
it's 100%.
Imagine the differences.
Yeah.
And again, it's stressful. And having a professional marketer who understands all the available options, that's really what we promote.
And explain advantages and disadvantages. And that's the difference between data entry.
Yeah.
I'm an agent. How much you sell your house for? Okay, go into MLS, data entry, hit enter, and wait till an offer hits your inbox. And being a strategist and explaining and bringing, again, for those 13-year agent your clients of what's
and
changed.
listen, let's just acknowledge, we're paid a fee, right?
Sure.
We're paid a commission for our job. If the marketing strategy is just to put it in the MLS and wait, what are you paying for? So I think in a world where commissions are more transparent, which was a good move, we have the ability to show exactly what we're providing to our clients for that commission.
On both sides, and I know this is primarily on talking about listing homes and MLS and Zillow and all that, but on the buy side also, there are, I ran into someone at an open house and they're like, my agent's never available, and I said, I'm really sorry, and that's where interviewing and talking to agents on the buy side is really important. What are your hours of operation? I tell everyone 7 days a week to 11 o'clock at night. I'm just I'm crazy like that. It's probably not healthy. My wife probably isn't super happy about it, but it's just a way. This isn't a pair of sneakers, it's people's lives. And if we wait, we can lose out on things. I'm in bed last night texting with clients about pricing on the build that they're doing. It's just how I do things. But that's where I bring my perceived value. And everyone has their right to build their perceived value however they want to do it. But there are agents that are just like, if you see something out there, let me know.
And that like another industry models that is like financial advising. You have a lot of different options of what you can do there. You can go with the family wealth management. You can, manage your own portfolio and everything in between. And I think knowing as a buyer or seller, knowing what you're getting into, knowing what you're opting into, the differences across that spectrum, because you might have the bandwidth and the ability to represent yourself, right? Do the for sale by owner thing. The data, says what the data says there though, or you may say, man, I really need somebody who's a professional, who's going to take the bull by the horns and get me where I want to go here. And
back to choice.
You have the choice, right? That's the whole thing.
And talking about percentages, and this is kind of getting off the rails, but I just feel like this is a really big percentage number that needs to be like brought out there to anyone watching. Call me. It is, what is it? 72% of agents last year did 0 deals. It is crazy, and it was like 0.14 did 45 deals or more last year.
Why do you think that is?
I mean, it's crazy. So the chances of you running, if you just start calling agents, of running into one of those 72% is a high likelihood. If you just start going down, I was going to say the yellow pages, date myself there a little bit. Boy. But you start going through just a list of agents, you have to be mindful, and clients should be interviewing agents and say, what is, not just, can you, help me find a house, how and what is your strategy? Because the likelihood of running into someone that doesn't do a big business is likely, because that's the majority, unfortunately.
Well, and the market changes rapidly. You wouldn't, to use Tanner's wealth analogy, you probably wouldn't have your money managed by somebody who occasionally trades, right? You'd want somebody who is adept at the market, watching the market. You mentioned you're working 7 days a week. I do the same in my own way, but just watching what's going on so we can help advise our clients. The market. Just like the stock market moves every day, so does the real estate market.
Sure.
It's a different commodity, but it moves with different changes, whether it be interest rates or the Fed or tariffs. Well, all of these things, and that's why you want a professional who really is watching those things so they can help advise you on a strategy that's going to work for you.
Yeah, I think I like thinking about different industries when it comes to stuff like, imagine that there was that many plumbers, master plumbers, that had only worked on 0 projects in the past year. And you run into
I want that guy to work in my
the
house.
grocery store, and you're like, and you're like, wow, I'm going to call this guy to handle something that's really important to me. And it's humorous, but it's like that. Sometimes we get to those situations with this industry just because it is so common. It's kind of easy to become a realtor instead of asking the questions like, hey,
listen, I've had a bad plumber, and I'll never make that mistake. I paid for it 3 times.
Yeah.
No,
totally.
that's a really good example because you work with somebody who really maybe doesn't have the strategy or whatever. You go through 3 or 4 listing agents that properties racked up days on market, or you don't like the way that they're going to communicate or the expectations they're going to set, and they're not going to help you reach that goal of locking that property down when you want it so that you can be in there by Memorial Day to host the family for your beach extravaganza. There's a lot at stake here, and I think as a buyer seller, you've got to do some due diligence and see who's going to help you get where you want to go.
Yeah, and as I tell clients all the time, when we're talking about, well, what's the house, what's my home worth, and I always tell everybody that, pardon me, our job as an agent is to use current data, historical data, what's going on in the market to make an educated guess. Yeah. Who really determines what your house is worth is that 30-day window of buyers that are out there right now. That's great. If we have 10, if we're listed, let's just say at $1 million, and we have 10 offers at $800,000, your house is worth $800,000. Now we can wait until that next 30-day window of buyers come in, and maybe there's some $1 million people in there. But if they are at $800,000 also, your house isn't worth $1 million.
And unfortunately, that price history lives. That kind of goes back to like my personal analogy. People know me. Like I've kind of toyed with putting my house on the market, and I've had it I've shown it a couple times, but I don't really need to sell.
If you need a list, I know.
Yeah, right. A guy, but I think about that, and let's say I did put it on the market, and I'm only going to sell if I can hit this certain number, and I didn't get it, but that history lives somewhere.
Yeah.
So even if 6 months later I market, they're going to say, well, wait a second, John's house didn't sell 6 months ago at that price. Why would I pay?
What
right?
happened?
So again, it's loss of control of the narrative, and I don't know. It'd be hard to convince me to
and I'm just here's what my thing is why, like what is the advantage of all of that? To your point with the auto industry, there's no this car was for sale and then wasn't for sale and now it's back for sale again. I'm it's $10,000 less. There's no history on that. There's no history on how much I was trying to sell my pen for that didn't sell for what I thought because I thought it was something special. Why is this? And is it the data thing? Is it control? Is it whatever? And I think that's where, again, to come back full circle to why we decided to do this podcast to begin with is, and why, again, I'm going to pop it up again right up here in the corner, control in the right place, control back in the seller's hands. Yeah. That it's their home, it's their money, it's their investment. They should be able to say how they want their house sold.
It's based on choice. And also this false narrative that we're not opening our listings to everybody else. Anybody who's listening, reach out to me personally if you have a hard time getting a hold of the ability to show any of our private exclusives. I will get you in.
Yeah.
Right. So we are not hiding anything.
No.
We are not trying to double end it. We've developed something that our sellers say, that works for me, and it's based on homeowner choice.
Sure.
And we're coaching internally. As soon as your seller says, hey, I'm ready for people not at Compass to see this, individually reach out to the agents that have these buyers, start that conversation, tee them up. That's the best practice. We've had people walk into our office this past week asking, hey, can I see your private exclusives? Yeah, come on, let's
I just got an email or a text yesterday. I went into clients that they're private exclusive. We're getting ready to go active today, and I had an agent that said, hey, can we hop in and see the house? I said, absolutely.
That's great.
Why are we gonna? I want to sell the home. Oh, by the way, that agent is not with Compass. Yeah.
Great.
And I don't care if it's Compass or if it's whoever.
I hope he brings it on.
My job is to sell the house, is to represent my client and get that house sold. And no offense to Compass, it doesn't make me any more money whether someone sells it whether the sell or the buy side is from Compass or not. So, there are other brokerages that do. There is a financial benefit if it stays in house. We are not. So it's I don't care who brings it. Bring it. That's right. Make my client happy. That makes me happy. So. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. I think that hopefully we were able to shed some light for people that have been hearing lots of different, like I said, it's on social media, podcasts and videos and rants and whatever about how Compass is just trying to keep it in-house and make more money. That's the farthest from the truth. And again, it's 3-phase marketing. And we want to, we always typically are getting to that third phase, which is going active on the MLS. So
But this was a ton of fun. Thanks for having us.
awesome. Thank you guys.
Yeah. Thanks, Cory.
Cool.